Happy Halloween, Regretters! The Attitude Era, a revered, nigh mythical time in WWE's history where they could practically do no wrong, as if every decision they made turned out to be the right one. It was their embracing of the edgy, counterculture attitude in America at the time that helped launch the company to heights they had not seen in years. But this was by no means some overnight shift in philosophy. This had been in the works for a while. By 1997, the WWF had already begun some intense flirtation with risque behavior. Look no further than how Goldust was portrayed for all of '96, or how the Nation of Domination got people uncomfortable talking about race, or how ladies like Sunny and Sable were constantly ogled over, not to mention the rise of one of wrestling's most ornery, foul-mouthed individuals in Stone Cold Steve Austin. By this point, the WWF becoming more attitudinal was all but official, but before they could truly spread their TV-14 wings, they took a slight detour to New York City.
On Shotgun Saturday Night!
In January of '97, the WWF introduced a brand new show to syndication called Shotgun Saturday Night. The concept was simple: take the stars of the World Wrestling Federation and put them in the hottest bars and nightclubs live in New York City. More intimate, more underground, and more room to experiment with the wilder stuff, this was unlike anything the company was producing at the time. The variety of venues made things feel like a fighting game, and who could forget those cheeky lower thirds for all the wrestlers? They call Hunter Hearst Helmsley Bob. That's funny, I guess. As somebody who has attended and performed at lots of independent shows in venues just like these, it was a blast to see the WWF give it a try. But as I was watching these episodes, all I could think about was, man, what a logistical nightmare this must have been. With every show taking place in New York, that meant pulling wrestlers who were touring elsewhere and bringing them into the city for a night, having to rebook the tours they were already on. Then there's all the coordination, setup, and teardown for the shows themselves. Though the cost of these productions was only a fraction of that for Raws and pay-per-views, the human toll should be taken into account, and having to change your setup each week for wildly different venues in one of the busiest metro areas on Earth probably didn't make things any easier. The early days of Shotgun Saturday Night were an experiment, a change of pace from the rest of WWF programming that actually served as a preview for what would lie ahead, but with a skeleton crew, subpar matches, and bits that were more weird than edgy. The concept only lasted for 6 weeks before Shotgun totally changed formats and became part of the pre-Raw tapings at arenas. I've known about this era of Shotgun for a while now, but I never actually sat down to watch these episodes until recently, and I am fascinated by them. That's why this week, I'm gonna rank them, my picks for the top 8 weirdest things to come from the original run of Shotgun Saturday Night. But first, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications for when stuff like this drops. Let's begin. Number 8, they used a tiny ring. Traditionally, WWE has almost always used rings that were 20 feet by 20 feet. If you've seen them in person, you know how large they are, and you know that a ring that size could not fit in venues that small. To help maximize space in the venues, Shotgun utilized a much smaller ring, 14 by 14 to be exact. It's pretty wild to see guys like Hunter Hearst Helmsley and The Rock wrestle in such a small ring, but I also felt bad for them. Lots of wrestlers have said that adjusting from one size ring to another can cause a major chaos to timing and routine, and going from 20 feet to 14 is a huge adjustment. If the difference wasn't so stark, maybe it wouldn't be as big a deal, but in my opinion, seeing these big guys in such a small ring didn't make Shotgun look more underground, just a bit cheaper. Number 7, ECW without the ECW. It is not opinion, but fact, that the WWF copying ECW's style helped put them back on the map in the late 90s. They can deny it up and down all they want, but it's pretty apparent from this early run of Shotgun, they were definitely trying to capture the vibe. Certainly, the smaller venues and stripped-down / non-existent sets gave off that DIY underground appearance that made ECW so endearing to their growing audience. Each episode began with a content warning, and the all-adult crowds gave off a totally different feel than the more family-friendly makeup at your typical WWF event. And to make things even more interesting, Paul Heyman himself helped the Federation scout locations for the show. But then once the bell rang, it was very clear whose show this was. Even though the locations were pretty much where the similarities between the two companies began and ended, it's hard to argue that the growing cool factor of ECW didn't play a role in the original vision. As a matter of fact, here's a thought. They should have used that show to help build up the ECW invasion of 1997. That Manhattan Center episode of Raw where they first showed up took place a couple of weeks after Shotgun had changed formats. If they were able to stay the course for a couple more months or even a few more weeks, you could have seen some ECW guys show up in these smaller venues where they might be able to truly shine. Oh, wait a minute. That would be a mistake because that would require the company to actually make them look good. Number 6. Goldust is pregnant. Seriously, that's what they said.
It's official. Goldust is pregnant.
It only took 2 episodes for Shotgun to go totally off the rails, yet somehow this wasn't even the strangest thing about it. More on that later. Apropos of nothing, Vince announced in the middle of the show that the bizarre one was pregante, in a parody of Demi Moore's iconic Vanity Fair cover from 6 years earlier. As always, the WWF is on the pulse. Vince promised that Goldust would give birth the following week and even showed the hospital it'd be happening at, then it was never brought up again. Gosh, I wonder why. I mean, this is exactly the kind of weird shit that you would not want to stumble upon when you're watching TV in the middle of the night. Like you're drunk or tired and suddenly you look up on the screen and you see a pregnant Goldust. You're like, what the fuck is that? And then before you know it, they take the image down, they never mention it again, and then to top it all off, none of your friends saw it! And you have to live with that forever! That is some evil shit! If the WWF was craven enough to pull something as stupid as this back then, I'm kinda surprised Vince shot down Dustin's own suggestion that he get breast implants. Number 5. Too edgy for 97? Having these shows on late at night in dark and seedy bars, you would think the limits of what you can say or do would be a lot looser than normal, right? Well, for some people, that's not the case. Only 1 episode from this era was filmed outside of New York, that being the 3rd episode at Denim and Diamonds in San Antonio the night before the 1997 Royal Rumble. On that show, Terry Funk made a surprise appearance to promote the Rumble match. In his brief time on the microphone, he called Todd Pettengill's mother a whore, called Jim Ross an Oklahoma asshole, and Vince McMahon a Yankee bastard. I thought he was just casting a Tennessee Williams play. By the end of the night, the Funker would brawl with Stone Cold Steve Austin, leading to an even bigger brawl to help sell the Rumble as the show faded to black. But apparently, Terry's naughty language upset at least one New York syndicator, causing their already late start time of midnight to be pushed back even further. You know, it always blows my mind where people choose to draw the line with stuff like this. Like, pro wrestling is simulated violence. Okay, it's violent. And there's plenty of sex on this show. I mean, we just talked about a pregnant Goldust 2 minutes ago, but calling someone a whore at 12:30 in the morning is a no-no apparently? I've changed the rules. This show is TVMA now. Number 4. Todd Pettengill, roving reporter. I have conflicting opinions on Todd Pettengill in the WWF. I mean, he was so dorky, he made 1997 Michael Cole look like 2025 Michael Cole. But you can't say he wasn't talented in his own right. Todd, seen here sporting his best evil twin goatee, was all over the show as the host, and his job included conducting wrestler interviews, but not those old-fashioned pre-match or post-match talkies in the ring or backstage. How about we get word from people at ringside mid-match?
How you feel about being here tonight and our surroundings? What was Diesel saying? I mean, the cake and what was going on here with Big Daddy? People can't believe what they're seeing. How about this? Man, I haven't seen anything like that in my life. I was just looking at Sable. She looks pretty good. Huh, Honky Tonk Man?
I can't believe that, Sable, but the Honky Tonk Man's got a tune especially for her.
Look, getting a sideline interview with a coach between plays during a football game is one thing, but I don't believe wrestling fans will ever be conditioned to stop watching a match so they can listen to a ringside promo partway through. It was such a bad idea they waited 12 whole years to try it again during the first season of NXT. But these weird breaks from the action aren't even the worst of what Todd does on this show. Trust me. Number 3. Todd Pettengill, Parody Man. Before working for the Federation, Pettengill made his name in radio, and like I said, he was very talented in that realm. At the 1996 Slammy Awards, Todd wowed the whole company with a well-put-together parody medley similar to what Billy Crystal did while hosting the Oscars at the time.
And here tonight we're gonna hand out Slammies, it beats the Grammys. I'm like your biggest fan, but how much did it cost McMahon? Hey Warrior!
Wait a minute.
Hey Warrior! Never missed a dinner. He's the Nathan's hot dog eating winner.
fine in small doses, but then someone had the bright idea to let Todd keep doing it.
He's got the prowess and the quickness of a cheetah, small enough to swallow like a human pocket pita. He's getting more attention than Madonna in Evita. He's Masquerita.
Oh, hey, that's pretty clever. You did Macarena, but with Masquerita. That was pretty funny, man. All right, man, good for you. Let's just move on to
The girls call him homie, the guys call him king. He can wrestle, play guitar, plus dance and sing. Now he's back.
Okay, Todd, seriously, it's time to cut the shit. All right? It's not funny anymore. We are trying to appeal to teens here. All right? Trying to be hip.
Honky tonk man, baby. Honky tonk.
Goodness, I wish this was an ECW show so he and Honky would get beat up by New Jack or something. Number 2, the Flying Nuns. Of all of Shotgun's great contributions to the vast tapestry that is the WWE Universe, this single thread sticks out like a sore thumb. Most WWE fans are aware of the Headbangers, a pair of punk rockers in skirts who like to brawl at concerts and catch their own spit. Tale as old as time. Mosh and Thrasher held the WWF and NWA tag titles in the late 90s and are one of those teams that really defined what the Attitude Era was all about. But just before they started wearing the skirts, first came their really big break, when they were wearing habits.
We have actually hot warmers against Nuns.
There they were, the first thing you saw in the ring on the pilot episode. Sister Angelica and Mother Smucker, a pair of nuns from a monastery in the Himalayas, walking down the steps of St. Patrick's Cathedral and right into your living rooms. Managed by Brother Love, naturally, the pair of nuns, who were referred to the whole time as women, beat the Godwins, who I think hold the record for the most appearances during this version of Shotgun. But I'm also pretty sure this match gave us the best use of a particular chant in wrestling history.
If you would, mixed match. Although again, wait a minute.
Anyway, 1 week later, the Nuns were arrested for solicitation. The WWF even posted their mugshots, which clearly showed their faces. Then that same night, the Headbangers officially debuted, these newcomers who looked awful familiar to the mugshots from earlier. Yet, nobody made reference to it on air. There was never any wink or nod to the audience. Nobody said, hey, these guys sure look familiar. It's just, hey, here's this brand new pair of guys you saw nothing from earlier. It was just weird. Then to make matters worse, their first match with the new gimmick was a flop because they couldn't finish it in time before the show went off the air. That was how the Headbangers were introduced to the world, with no intro or no ending. Holy shit indeed. The Flying Nuns are quite possibly one of the strangest one-and-done gimmicks not just in WWE history, but damn near all of wrestling, and we have Shotgun Saturday Night to thank for that. But before we move on to the final moment, let's briefly acknowledge some of the cool things that happened on this show. Ahmed Johnson hits the Pearl River Plunge on D'Lo Brown onto a car. Oh! Nikolai Volkov pops out of a cardboard box in Times Square.
Oh my goodness.
Do you understand English?
And The Undertaker hits the tombstone on Triple H on the escalator at Penn Station. Look at him go down. And my pick for the number 1 weirdest Shotgun Saturday Night moment is Fondle Me Elmo. Walk with me. You remember Sunny, right? One of the most charismatic women in wrestling history, most downloaded woman of 1996, someone who changed the game and became known as the first diva of WWE. Just try to forget everything that's happened since then. On the inaugural episode, Marlena shocked everyone when she exposed herself to the Sultan to help her man Goldust pick up the win. Strange of them to let him wrestle so close to term, right? Anyway, Sunny, who worked commentary with Vince McMahon, was weirdly upset about the stunt and promised to provide her own tawdry moment the following week.
Pam Anderson can do it, so can I! I'm gonna bring you, and all of you, one of my home sex videos.
Holy crap, now this was something to set your VCR to. Sunny, in her prime, promising a sexy video? Man, if 12-year-old Brian Zane knew who this woman was, he would have freaked. Instead, the video opens up on a shot of Sunny wearing a bathrobe, cuddling with that oh-so-famous toy, Tickle Me Elmo. For you younger viewers out there, Tickle Me Elmo was about as popular as 12 Labubu's at once. Anyway, you'll never guess what happens next.
There you go. Come to mama. Woo! Dance for me, honey. There you go.
Oh, yeah!
What a
I'll
body.
be back, Sonny.
What a body. Come here.
Ah!
fondle me, Elmo. Oh yeah.
Take me, Sonny!
Come here.
Ah!
Are you ready for me, baby?
Wow! Woo!
I wish to reiterate that, in kayfabe, this was Sonny's response to Marlena exposing her breasts. That'll show her!
Where's fondle me, Elmo?
It's kind of amazing to think about the process that got us here. I mean, the bait and switch with Sonny, sure, that shouldn't surprise me. But not only did someone think it would be funny to have her pretend to have sex with Elmo, they also thought that he should wear a thong, because that's what this needs, props! And do you want to hear something really weird? That was Pettingill in the Elmo suit. Have fun sleeping tonight! In my book, there's no question, there's no dispute, there's nothing weirder from this or any era of WWE that will top the depraved yet brief insanity of Fondle Me Elmo, and it's obvious that this was the weirdest moment of Shotgun Saturday Night. R.I.P. Shotgun, a fun idea the world just wasn't ready for yet. But what did you think about this era of Shotgun, and how about this review? Let me know in the comment section below. Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm Brian Zane, and okay, I'll get one more out of the way. You want to play 21? I got 22.